Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, where are you? Sorry. Okay. There seems to be we've had some excitement in the previous committee, and so we have had some delays in starting our own. But welcome to the committee. It is televised. Please take your seats. I don't need any noise here. Thank you. Today we have, in the first hour, we will have the Honorable Carla Qualtrough, the Minister for Public Service and Procurement, and accompanying her are Mary LeMay, the Deputy Minister, Michael Vandergrift, the Associate Deputy Minister, Les Linklater, Associate Deputy Minister, Marty Muldron, the CFO. And do we have the Shared Service Canada here? Of course. Mr. Parker, how could I even miss you? From Shared Service Canada, we have Ron Parker, Alain Duplant, the CFO, and Graham Barr. So welcome, and I believe, Minister, you have some opening remarks.
I do. Thank you.
10 minutes max, please.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Before I begin, Madam Chair, I would like to acknowledge that this is a tough day for members of the House of Commons and families and friends, and offer my condolences. We all have heavy hearts. And I just want to acknowledge that it's a difficult day for all of us. So please accept my sincere condolences to Gord Brown's family and friends and the members of his caucus. Okay, so I am pleased to be here to appear before you as Minister of Public Services and Procurement and Minister responsible for Shared Services Canada to discuss the 2018-2019 main estimates. Joining me here, as was said, from PSPC are Deputy Minister Marie LeMay, Associate Deputy Ministers Les Linklater and Michael Vandergrift, and Marty Muldoon, Chief Financial Officer. Here from Shared Services are President Ron Parker, Alain Duplanty, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister and Chief Financial Officer, Corporate Services, and Graham Barr, Acting Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategy. Les deux organisations jouent
Both organizations fill critical roles in support of federal government operations and the delivery of programs and services to Canadians. Allow me to begin with Public Services and Procurement Canada, which in 2018-29 main estimates is requesting $3.2 billion.
For property and infrastructure, including the parliamentary precinct and support for the G7 summit, $215 million for payments and accounting, $122 million for government-wide support programs, $117 million for the purchase of goods and services, and $235 million for internal services. Allow me to begin with an update on the work of PSPC and Phoenix. Last week, I was at our Pay Centre in Miramichi to announce the expanded rollout of the new POD approach, following a very successful pilot. Under this approach, pay employees are set up in teams that serve specific departments, allowing them to gain expertise and build relationships with their client departments. From December to March, this pilot shows that pay pods reduced the backlog of the 3 pilot departments by 24% overall, and the number of employees with pay issues dropped by 11%. In comparison, the numbers elsewhere remained relatively stable.
What's interesting is that the pod idea came from the employees themselves. In Miramichi last week, I felt a degree of optimism among staff, an appreciation that their voices are being heard, and a sense that the challenge before them can actually be surmounted. Our approach going forward is to continue to engage with the people who know best, meaning the Pay Centre staff, the unions, and the employee users of Phoenix.
System. For instance, we're increasing capacity. Since starting with 550 employees when Phoenix was launched, we have reinstated the 700 positions eliminated by our predecessors and further invested to nearly triple the number of staff processing pay at the Pay Centre and in satellite offices across the country. We have added about 200 public servants at the Client Contact Centre, and they now have direct access to Phoenix so they can provide public service with real-time details about pay issues. Budget 2018 provides $431 million in support of these efforts. Our most recent dashboard shows progress. Our backlog is down 5,000 transactions from last month, and with minor fluctuations has steadily declined since January of 2018. As pay pods are expanded, we expect this decline in backlog transactions to pick up speed. To all those employees who have been affected, I promise that we will resolve their pay problems and, over time, restore their trust. Beyond Phoenix, PSPC is leading other important work, such as the acquisition of critical equipment for the Canadian Armed Forces. Dans le cadre de la stratégie nationale en matière de construction.
Under the National Shipbuilding Strategy, the first large ship, the Offshore Science and Fisheries vessel, is complete and is expected to be delivered to the Canadian Coast Guard later this year. The Royal Canadian Navy's first ship, the Arctic and Offshore Patrol Ship, is undergoing final assembly. In addition, this year we will select a preferred bidder for the design of the Canadian Surface Combatant, which will be the backbone of the Navy.
Design of the Canadian Surface Combatant, which will form the backbone of the Navy. This work matters. Contracts awarded under the shipbuilding strategy are contributing $8.9 billion in GDP and creating or maintaining almost 9,000 jobs a year. We look forward to providing regular updates on our progress. Shifting from sea to sky, to meet the Air Force's interim needs, we continue to work with our Australian counterparts to finalize the purchase and delivery of F-18 aircraft and spare parts beginning in 2019. The open and transparent competition that we announced last December to permanently replace Canada's fighter fleet is also well underway. Both PSPC and ISED have held industry engagements. These meetings are critical to ensuring that the procurement process is effectively designed and that Canadian suppliers are provided with opportunities to participate. As the government's central purchaser, the Department is simplifying and streamlining procurement and seeking ways to leverage the government's purchasing power to not just buy, but buy better. Nous accroissons le nombre d'occasions d'affaires pour diversifier.
We are increasing opportunities for diverse suppliers such as women, Indigenous peoples, persons with disabilities, and visible minorities. We are also making sure that our procurement supports other important goals, such as the fight against climate change.
Barriers faced by small and medium-sized enterprises trying to sell to the government. While SMEs already account for 80% of our contracts, under $1 million, of our contracts under $1 million, and over 30% of our contracts over $1 million, we want those numbers to grow. I know this committee has been studying this topic, and I look forward to your report and recommendations. We are already making great progress. Since last July, suppliers have been able to submit bids electronically, which is faster, greener, and more efficient. By the end of this year, we expect at least 70% of bids to be submitted this way. Over the longer term, PSPC is adopting an e-procurement solution that will simplify contracting for both the government and our suppliers and make bidding more accessible to the visually impaired. We'll take the time to do this properly and ensure that lessons from the development of Phoenix many years ago inform our approach. Ici, à la Cité parlementaire, notre but commun demeure.
Here in the parliamentary precinct, our collective objective remains to ensure a seamless transition of operations from Centre Block this summer to the new House of Commons in West Block. While final IT, multimedia, and security devices are being installed and tested, we continue to work closely with our parliamentary partners to mitigate any risk of delay.
This week, I announced the appointment of 5 new members of the Board of Directors. They will join the recently appointed Chair, Jessica McDonald, to continue efforts to implement the renewed vision for the Crown Corporation and its priority of service to Canadians. Critical to renewal will be the focus on building more collaborative relationships with employees, communities, and other stakeholders. Let me now speak about Shared Services Canada. Through the main estimates, Shared Services Canada seeks $1.5 billion in funding to continue providing modern, reliable, and secure IT infrastructure services in support of the digital delivery of programs and services to Canadians. This amount includes an investment of $17.3 million related to the G7 Summit and La Mabaye, Quebec, to improve cell phone coverage and access to high-speed internet in the region, legacies that will remain long after the summit ends. To support the Government of Canada's digital vision, Shared Services Canada will modernize and enable cloud services while sustaining its core operations and implement business tools to secure and deliver digital services. In March, I noted here that SSC has begun brokering public cloud computing services for unclassified data for the federal government. Many customer departments are now using these services for a range of IT needs. This year, the department will begin to offer cloud services for classified data up to the protected B level. SSC will also continue to migrate departmental workloads to the public cloud or to new enterprise data centers, where appropriate and based on direction from enterprise governance. SSC recently opened its third state-of-the-art data center in Ontario to help it better protect government and citizen information in IT systems. Budget 2018 proposes over $2 billion over 6 years to help Shared Services Canada address evolving IT opportunities and needs, including cybersecurity threats, and deliver the kind of digital services Canadians expect. This funding marks a reset for both SSC and government IT. Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je me ferai un plaisir de répondre à vos.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd look forward to your questions.
With the first 7-minute round, Monsieur Ayoub, 7 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here. Madam Minister, at the outset, in your opening statement, you alluded to Phoenix, and I know full well that you're up to the job. You said that you were in Miramichi last week. We see the figures. We see that progress is being made and that there has been a somewhat optimistic decrease in the workload. But you're saying, can you tell us what are the obstacles that are still foreseeable over the summer period with the hiring of new students and the renewal of new collective agreements? Are there any particular aspects that may pose a challenge, and what are the potential solutions that you intend to put into effect in order to resolve these problems? Thank you for your question. Of course, even if I'm optimistic, by nature, there are still issues that we need to deal with. Transactions, dealing with the backlog. This is going down slowly but surely. And there may be some issues that we have not necessarily foreseen. Putting in these pods is a great way to deal with this Phoenix challenge. This will help us to deal with this backlog problem by improving it by 24%. So we heard the ideas put forward by the Miramichi employees about their work conditions, and that's given results. Yes, there is the issue of collective agreements and hiring students this summer, but we can assure you that it will go better this summer than it did in the past, which in last summer was better than the previous summer. So it's a slow process, and I'm hoping that with these pods, we will be able to achieve greater progress, but it will continue to be a challenge for us. Over the past few months, I would say, we've been trying to hire former specialists that worked in the pay offices and that were let go. You referred to 700 people who were let go. How are you doing with the hiring process? Do you intend to hire more people, or have you now achieved the capacity that you wish to have? It's an ongoing process, but I can ask Mr. Linklater to provide you with specific details. We have just hired in January 325 individuals, new employees to work in our teams. This month, we've hired another additional 60 people, and we intend to hire another 410 people next week. These will be summer students that come from the University of Moncton. So we're still in the hiring mode, and that will continue so that we can have a good number of employees who are there to help us and help our departments and agencies. So the training period, how long does that take? It depends. It depends on the individuals. If we hire people with previous experience in compensation, well, it takes less time to train because they can focus on the system themselves. But if we're hiring someone who is just new to the public service, we have to provide compensation training in the public service. So all this to say that we are taking people off the street, if you like, and we provide training for 12 weeks. Often, I hope that we won't be hearing about employees who are not getting paid at all. It always hits the headlines when people come out and say that they've not been getting a paycheck. We've had this discussion several times. These people obviously turn to their superiors, their bosses, but if they had this problem, but in your opinion, are there still cases like this that we're having to deal with? Or are these exceptions? This happens very rarely now. It's not the paycheck that is missing. It's extra pay for retroactive pay when someone's in an acting position. Sometimes that creates a problem. 20 and 40 people are not getting their basic paycheck. Over 300,000 people. But we do have a mechanism in place to inform departments and agencies when this happens so that they in turn can ensure that these people get some monies to pay their bills. And we're going to resolve this over the next 2 weeks, the next pay period. So we now have mechanism to avoid the crises that we saw at the very beginning. That we still have other issues to deal with. I only have a little minute left, and I thank you very much for your answers. That seems like things are going well. The mechanism to help parliamentarians in their regions, we had this discussion the last time. Are there any mechanisms? Well, the mechanisms have improved, but can you give us a breakdown of this mechanism? What have you done to resolve the issue of citizens who come to see us? In talk in general terms, obviously. I think the process helped parliamentarians a great deal. I'm going to give you the names of these programs in English.
90 cases from MPs. In April, we received 400 cases from MPs, which was a decrease, obviously, of about 190 cases. All emails received through these channels have been acknowledged within the 10 business days that we said we would acknowledge them. Of the 400 cases, approximately 34% were processed with responses provided back to the MP's offices and expected date for the resolution. Approximately 35% of the escalations were related to payments for retroactive salary adjustments or allowances, such as extra duty pay. Approximately 25% of the escalations were related to termination.
Minister, I have to cut you short.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's pretty good news. To sum it up, pretty good news.
Mr. Kelly for 7 minutes.
Mr. McCauley's going.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Macaulay.
Yes.
I say by his first name. You guys confuse us.
Yes. No, Kelly Cox. Welcome back. It looks like you've drawn a bigger crowd than the Ottawa Senators normally get. So, I have some quick questions for you. So I appreciate brief answers. When are we going to hit a steady or the so-called steady state for Phoenix?
Well, I've learned not to provide dates. As I've said, we're looking for progress. So
You don't. Yeah.
I hear you, but if you look at 3 departments representing approximately 10,000 employees of the 300, saw a decline of 24% over 4 months.
If you haven't got a date, that's fine. I want to ask you something. Letter here from TBS that states those affected by Phoenix overpayment, we're not going to require them or go after them, so to speak, to repay the overpay until, I quote, until all their pay issues are correct and all the pay problems are addressed. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I just want to confirm that. Now, we'll just get back quickly to Phoenix. You know, we've seen over the time. We've had the Gartner report, which we were told, well, it was presented but wasn't given to the minister. The Director General of HR report noticing all the issues with Phoenix, okay, it wasn't passed on to the minister. The project checklist talking about the backlog to be cleared, well, wasn't passed on to the minister. CFOs, and we hear IBM has come out and said, well, we actually told the deputy minister not to go ahead. In light of all this warnings to the department that apparently was never passed on to the minister, in light of that, in terms of ministerial oversight, like what steps are you taking to ensure you actually are getting the proper information with all these other projects we have going on? $80 billion shipbuilding, $15, $20 billion F-35 project, and everything else. We've seen repeatedly the information not getting to you or Minister Foote.
Yep.
What steps have we taken to ensure we're not getting a repeat of that?
Well, thanks for your question. I think, quite honestly, that is the biggest lesson we learned from this, and one that could arguably the most of grave concern. You know, sitting in the position of minister, the decisions you make they're only as good as the advice and information you have before you. So we've taken a number of steps, right from the Prime Minister creating the ministerial working group. We have a DM oversight committee. We have at the ADM level, we have that. It's horizontal across departments. We've got DG working groups. We've got union management working
that
groups.
those overseeing the shipbuilding are communicating issues properly?
Yes,
Right.
I would say that.
I want to get to Table 8 to 11 from the budget. There's $653 million for PSPC. Stabilizing future transformation of Phoenix, $307 million. Real property repairs and maintenance, $275. Like $653 million is a lot of money. Curious why it's not in your departmental plans.
Thank you. Can you help me with that one? Marty, sorry, Marty.
It's just, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the question. It's simply a timing issue. They are in the main estimates of the government,
You
but
realize
they're
the departmental plans set out the results that we expect the
Right.
department for the taxpayers' money. $653 million of taxpayers' money can be given without any oversight, and now you're saying because of the timing, it's not going to be put into the departmental plans for parliamentarians or taxpayers to see what we're getting for that money.
So we're able to publish the departmental plans with the main estimates that are available to the department. And those numbers are budget 2018 numbers and are not in our main estimates, and therefore they can't be captured in the plans beyond any sort of minimal recognition of them because we don't have the articulation of the
$275
plans.
for the real property projects and $275 million. You got into the budget. What is the plan for that? What are the details of that? What's the money going to be used for? What are the results you expect to achieve for this?
So we are preparing the business case to go to Treasury Board to lay out all of those details, and at that time we would have all the articulation behind these numbers.
So you don't have that information now.
Not in the time to prepare the departmental plans.
Okay, and this is, Minister, I'll ask you, I mean, this is our issue with 8 to 11, the vote 40. Yeah. You're asking us to approve $653 million without any results posted of what you expect taxpayers to get for that $653 million. Then we just hear your department saying, well, we haven't devised a plan what that money's for, but we're expected as parliamentarians to approve this money. Do you not see an issue with that?
I appreciate what you're saying. I know we're working really hard to align these processes better. What I understand the situation, quite frankly,
But
to be,
aligning the
is
issue
it's
and
not in the
taking
departmental
away-
plan. We know what that money is targeted at.
But we just heard that we don't have
Well,
the
I think
budget done up.
what
We
we
don't
just
know
heard
what
was
we're
that
gonna
it's not in the
get
plan
for.
because of timings, but it is, and that we're focusing on a Treasury Board submission. But I'm sure
But
Mr.
regardless
Muldoon
of the
can tell you
timing,
what
do
it's
you
for.
think it's correct to expect parliamentarians to approve $653 million for what is going to be basically a blank check? Because we've heard we don't have plan results for that. We don't have our achievement. We don't know what the money's going to be spent for. And
I'm
we
sure
don't have the
Mr.
time. We've just heard we haven't had the time to develop it to get it into the estimates, but apparently we're supposed to rubber stamp $653 million of taxpayers' money when you don't have a plan.
I think what Mr. Muldoon was saying is that we are working on the Treasury Board submission. We know what we want that money to be spent on, and he can elaborate on that.
What's
He
the
was
money gonna
focusing
be
on the
spent
plan and the
on?
Treasury Board submission. Would you like to
Please
clarify,
give us a
Marty?
detail of what that 275 will be for and what the planned results will be and the planned outcomes. And if you have that information, why is it not in your departmental plan?
So we have you're not being asked on behalf of PSPC
This is money.
to approve the
This is money
653.
for PSPC. We were told very clearly by Minister Bryson,
Yep.
hey, the minister can come and explain it.
Correct.
What's the 275 for?
We have
What are your planned results for that? How much of that is going to be for staffing? How much is for operations? And if you have all that information now, why is it not in the departmental plans?
So we have 2 years' worth of temporary short-term funding expiring. That is the reason why you see our main estimates having a reduction in this space for the program integrity for our real property assets. It's been a well-documented case. It's been to this committee numerous times in our supplementary estimates,
Why is it
where
not in
we've
the
sought the money
departmental
to
plans?
return to the department to continue to provide vital investments in the many buildings that we operate on behalf of the public service across the country. We've successfully been named
Minister,
in
what's the
budget
$300 million
2018.
for Phoenix Place?
We've been named in the budget to receive a continuation of the funding.
Sorry, 7 minutes are up, so I'll have to go to the next questioner, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here today. There's lots of important issues, and I just want to note that New Democrats do share Mr. McCauley's concerns about approvals of things where we don't have the details as parliamentarians. But forgive me for a moment. You, Madam Minister, have presented us with a picture of Phoenix, and I'm going to present you with a different picture. And that's from my constituents. I represent a riding where we have more than 1,000 people with Phoenix pay cases. We have DND, we have the Coast Guard, we have Revenue Canada. I've got a whole lot of people who don't share your optimism. When you say that you don't have a date when this will be fixed, I just did a little bit of math here. You said you'd made progress, 5,000 in a month. You said in your pilots you got another 10% improvement. So if you actually do the math on the transactions, that means in about 9 years you'll finish with the outstanding transactions there. That's just not acceptable. And I don't see any plans in anything you talked about today, because I already gave you the credit, right, for your pilot plans in that. So 9 years from now, people can expect to have their pay straightened out. Not good enough. And when you said members, you asked us to submit cases.
Yep.
And you did that when I raised this with you in the House of Commons. We submitted 13 cases on the 2nd of February. And you said you responded within 10 days. Let me tell you what your department responded. The request has been sent to the Pay Center for review, period. Not one of those cases has been fixed, and we've had no further information on any of those cases. Those were the most egregious cases, including one of the people who, I'm not going to say where she was employed because I don't have a permission to do that today. Her daughter had to make the decision to drop out of post-secondary education because they didn't want to go further in debt. And the pay problems are so complex in her case that they weren't able actually to get some of the emergency loans and things you say, because nobody can actually figure this out. When you say the number of complaints or number of cases given to you by MPs dropped by 190, yeah, I haven't sent you any more because you haven't dealt with the first 13. Yesterday, I got 80 more cases from DND firefighters in my riding with severe underpayment problems in most of the cases. And with respect, Madam Minister, when you say these are just, not some extra pay or not some substitution pay, people base their family budgets and paying their bills on the pay that they're entitled to get. And when they don't get it, it creates severe problems. So I know you painted a somewhat rosy picture of the progress. I just don't see it. But more importantly, the public servants in my riding don't see it.
Okay. First of all, thank you. And I completely understand your frustration and the difficult situation we've put your constituents in. I can assure you that in no way by suggesting that people were, getting their base pay but other types of pay was I trying to be disrespectful of the fact of the position we put them in. So I apologize if that came across. I think we have to be mindful. This will not take 9 years to resolve. I think what the math I was starting to give your colleague had to do with if you see a 24% reduction over 4 months in 3 departments, I mean, that's not 9 years. If you can reduce the other 70 some odd percent in the next year or so. We don't know if that's going to be the same results as we roll out the pod project. And we also know that there are some departments, and you've got a nexus of them in your riding between D&D Coast Guard that have extraordinary challenges with both their HR systems and how their systems interface with pay and how they input their data. One of the things we know is this isn't just a matter of technology and pay. This is a matter of HR. departments are regularly submitting their HR data late, which puts a stress on Phoenix that adds a complication. As soon as a transaction becomes retroactive because it's late, Phoenix doesn't like that. Now, Phoenix shouldn't behave that way, but it does. So what the effort we're making with all departments is to ensure their data is input on time and accurately.
But Madam Minister, even if I give you your 25% improvement across the board, that's 2.5 more years. And in the cases I sent you in February, some of those are outstanding since 2016.
And we'll
So
definitely
that-
have to look into
that-
those cases, because
I mean,
that
that means people are waiting 4 years to get correct pay. It's just not acceptable.
I agree.
So your assumptions also are that you're not getting new cases. Are you now telling us that you are not getting new cases and new problems under Phoenix? Because I don't believe that.
No, that's not my assumption at all. I apologize if I gave that impression. I mean, what I'm saying is we are, and Les can help me with the math a little bit, but the number of new cases went down, the number of people affected went down by 11%. We are managing to basically process everything new that's coming in and chip away at the backlog. So the service standard of 80,000 a month, that is coming in. And again, Les, can you give us the more detailed of like a sample month perhaps, because absolutely we're getting new cases. We're just keeping within our service standard and chipping away at the backlog at the same time.
That's correct. For the 3 departments in the pod pilot, we are keeping on top of the incoming transactions 90% of the time, and that has allowed the resources in the pod to focus on the backlog, as the minister has said. We've seen that reduction. Going forward, we want to ramp this up exponentially, so at the end of May, we'll be launching another 3 pods for another 12 organizations, and we're working with them now to set up those pods by the end of the month. There will be another wave in September with additional departments and agencies and so on, so that we're leveraging the experience of the work, the people in the pods, to be able to expand the model as quickly as possible, recognizing that the timelines to address these issues are unacceptable.
I guess the last thing I've heard from, especially unions in my riding, like the Public Service Alliance of Canada, the National Defence Employees, is that they've given up, and they'd like to see a commitment from the government to abandon this system. They don't believe it's ever going to be fixed. So what are you doing to get a system that's going to work?
Well, obviously, my colleague, the president of the Treasury Board, is tasked with, in parallel with our department, focusing on stabilizing the existing system, because as we all know, we have to pay 300,000 people every 2 weeks. He and his team are working to look at the next generation of pay systems. So what will that look like? How will it interface better with HR systems? Certainly, as was put into budget 2018, the $16 million. Is that the right number? I apologize. Yes. To look at the next system. We will not keep Phoenix in perpetuity, but right now we need to focus on stabilizing this system to get us to the point where, first of all, we're handing over clean data to any new system, and second of all, people are being paid in the meantime.
Thank you.
I forgot to welcome you to our committee, but welcome. Thank you. We now go to Madame Mendez for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, Minister and official. I'm sorry, and guests. God. I haven't spoken enough this morning, clearly. I thank you for the many updates you've given us on Phoenix, so I will not go there for the moment. I think my colleagues will take enough time with that. I would like to ask you about prompt payment and the progresses that have been made. I have some of the subcontractors in my constituency that have been working with the new Champlain Bridge project, and who are quite impressed, positively impressed with the federal government's decision to impose prompt payment. But we would like to see our provincial counterparts take the same approach too. But if you could just give us an idea of the progress that has been made on that and how it's been implemented through federal contracting.
Sure, thank you for the question. I know this has been a preoccupation of many of you on this committee. We have learned a lot from what has happened in Ontario, and in fact, we are taking a very similar approach with industry organizations. So earlier this year, we announced that we are seeking industry and input and recommendations that will inform federal prompt payment legislation. We have retained the firm of Reynolds and Vogel, who are a third-party contractor who was really instrumental in bringing partners together in Ontario. And they're out seeking input from the construction industry to identify the elements that would be in this legislation. We're hoping then to be in the process very soon of accepting those recommendations, putting those elements in a legislative form, and starting that process within the House.
Well, thank you very much, because, yeah, they would like to see, but I think a lot of it has already started to happen just because people know the legislation is coming and they've started to act on it. But it would be, I think, extremely important for them to know that not only the federal government acted, but that it will influence
I
the
apologize. Yes, I think a key element to this, of course, is showing leadership and putting some influence on other provinces to follow suit, other provinces and territories, because so many subs are within provincial jurisdiction. But what we can do at the federal level is show this leadership, and that will hopefully have and raise these issues at FPT tables where we have those opportunities, and show that the success of Ontario and ultimately our success will inspire other provinces and territories to follow suit.
Absolutely. And it's been, it's been an important, very troublesome matter that's been going on for years, this very long delay in payment for the subcontractors that don't have the financial capacity to withstand. Now I'd like to go to another subject of mine that I hold dear to my heart, and it's Canada Post. So we have a new chair. We have 5 new board members, but we still have no CEO. I know that Ms. McDonald is an acting CEO. Is there any indication that you could give as Minister of when we should expect the nomination of a CEO?
Well, thank you for the question. As you know, this and others have studied Canada Post in depth over the past while, and we put forth our vision in early January for a renewed Canada Post, which does focus on service to Canadians. Our appointment of Jessica McDonald as chair, quite frankly, has been just extraordinarily positive for both the organization, for union management relations. She's working very hard. As I said, we did the 5 appointments last Friday. We are working. I would say we're close on the CEO appointment. I can't give you any more information than that. I apologize, but I actually have a meeting this afternoon on that. So, but yes, it's very hopeful, and profits are good. We're really looking, and Ms. McDonald and her senior management team and the board have a renewed energy and innovation around this, and I'm really interested to see what they do with Canada Post in the future.
When would they present an indication of where they would like to take the organization? Are we expecting something this year still, next year, after their...
I mean, we have to give them time to gel as a board, to hire and work with the new CEO and any management changes that happen as a result of that. They've already tabled their corporate plan for this year, so I expect end of this year, early next year, we'll see something coming out of Canada Post to really share with us their thinking on the future of this organization.
You mentioned that relationships with the unions have been greatly improved since Ms. McDonald's nomination. I have heard, yes, that they believe from the unions themselves that they believe that things are looking better, but there's still some that insist on mentioning the tensions they feel that at the work level, if you wish, of bullying more than anything else. And
sorry, what did you say?
Bullying.
Bullying, yes, thank you.
And I wonder if you've been made aware of these issues, and how do we intend to deal with them?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm very alive to this issue. It's something I've been engaged with personally, both in conversations with Ms. McDonald, with the union, with union members who have come to me personally with their issues. I was presented with binders and binders of complaints by the union. We absolutely recognize, first of all, this is absolutely unacceptable. This, Canada Post, while it has a policy against harassment and bullying, there's a fundamental culture shift that we all recognize has to happen within this organization to really get the change that is required to eliminate this kind of behavior on the floor, for lack of a better way of putting it. I've met with employees. I've spoken. I've written to Ms. McDonald on this issue, and I'm very regularly updated on initiatives that are being taken. I think fundamentally, as much as I said the relationship has improved, it has hiccups, and there's still more work that needs to be done to improve those relations, and there are tensions that exist. Aside from whatever that relationship is, fundamentally, we have zero tolerance in our government for bullying and harassment, and that culture change that's required needs to be a top priority for both senior management and the new board.
I think I have a few
Seconds,
seconds. Yes.
So thank you very much.
Timed it well, didn't I?
So committee and Madam Minister, before we go to the second round of 5 minutes, I'd like to seek your indulgence. I know you have given us an hour, and that would be noon, but we started a little late, so would you mind going 5 minutes extra? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first 5-minute round would be Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Minister. According to the departmental plan for national defense, your government is actually spending significantly less than what was promised. Can you explain the discrepancy?
Would it be Michael? Where's Michael?
Minister?
Would it be Michael or, sorry, Marty, for the details?
That would really be for the Department of National Defense to reply in terms of the status of their expenditures year over year. But the government has committed to significant investments in defense through the Strong, Secure, and Engaged initiative, and those investments are rolling out over the next several years.
Well, that's I'm sorry, but it's a little bit disappointing as an answer, because the Minister of Defense repeatedly defers to you when asked the same question. So it's not acceptable to have just two ministers passing the ball back and forth. The minister was asked on multiple occasions, including at Committee of the Whole. So who is responsible for not getting the money out the door so that important projects can be undertaken to supply our troops?
Thank you. It might be helpful for you to give me a specific example as far as the way we work with client departments, including defense, and most closely with defense for obvious reasons. Defense identifies a need, and our department works the process through. So if it's a process question you have, if there's concerns about how long it's taking on a specific acquisition, we can certainly answer that question. If they haven't made the requests or they haven't identified the need, then we don't dictate that. We don't say, you said you were going to ask us to do these things. You have. I mean, it's really. It's their ball to carry. Michael, is that fair?
But I think there are a number of significant needs that have been readily identified. Our Air Force needs new fighter jets.
Yep.
Our Navy needs new ships. Our Army needs new vehicles and ammunition. These are well-known needs that have been discussed ad nauseum, and it is frustrating to seemingly see no action on these important things. And here we are again at another meeting being told, well, we don't know, we're waiting for somebody else to tell us.
With respect, I'm not saying that. I gave you an update on the ships and the fighter jets. We are making progress on both those files, and I would say a significant progress. I don't know, Michael, if you want to add anything, but we are moving forward with these acquisitions, absolutely.
Absolutely, we're making progress on those major acquisitions. We've also taken steps to try to streamline defense procurement in certain areas. For example, giving increased authorities to National Defense to run its own lower value procurements, so PSPC can concentrate on the higher value ones, and D&D can do more throughput on lower value ones, for example, to help increase the throughput.
Could you give us some more specific timeframes then on fighter jets and shipbuilding?
So on fighter jets, the competition is launched for the permanent fleet replacement. We hope to have our draft RFP out this fall and a full RFP out in spring 2019 for jets to have a contract award in 2021-22 with operations in 2025. And that's what the government had committed to achieve. We're on track to achieve what the government had committed on.
So you're committing the RFP will be out in the spring of 2019.
That's right.
With a name. Say that again. The expectation of completion of the acquisition.
2025 is the date for that. Where the jets become the award of contract and the jets are fully operational. The training's done. They're fully operating in the fleet, et cetera.
Okay.
there's a lot of steps in that process, right, in terms of
So,
make sure the
so the
infrastructure
awarding
in
the
place, the
contract would
training
be
happens.
2021, is that what you said?
That's right.
That you would award the contract in 2021?
Late 2020.
Late 2021.
Is the
That's, it seems that many of our allies seem to find ways to procure their equipment a lot more quickly and efficiently than we can, and there's tremendous work, I think, to be done in this area still. What?
About 45 seconds.
Well, I guess then just a quick question: why does a 400-page budget devote no pages to national defense?
I don't know that I'm in a position to answer that. I didn't write the text.
I
of the
appreciate
budget.
you're not the Minister of
apologize.
Finance, but procurement, the military procurement is a huge part of
Absolutely.
what you do, and the budget was silent on it.
Yeah, the major paper on strong, secure, and engage was just recently released by the government, which outlines a series of extensive commitments to invest in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Thank you, and welcome, Mr. Fergus, for 5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente, puis merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Minister, for coming here today, accompanied by your colleagues from the department. I know you don't want to deal with this particular issue. Me neither. My riding has a lot of public servants in it, and quite a few of them have had problems with the Phoenix pay system. This is an issue that causes a great deal of stress, a lot of problems, but I'd like to congratulate you because since you have been in this position, I've seen a real change in tone, and we've managed to achieve progress, and I congratulate you for that. But I do have to raise some issues. In your testimony today, you said that you didn't foresee working with Phoenix on a long-term basis.
For you, in regards to Phoenix.
Thank you for the question. I'm cheeky because the end game, of course, is that everybody is paid accurately on time. It's going to take time and money to get there. And in parallel to us moving full stream ahead on stabilizing this system, a separate team, informed by the lessons from the acquisition of this system, are working to figure out and determine what the next system will be. And so as, full steam ahead, stabilizing this, which means transitioning departments to the pod concept. It means ongoing, technological improvements and process improvements, automating as many of these functions as we can, full court press awareness campaign across the government in terms of inputting data accurately on time. I cannot stress enough, and and this is not blaming whatsoever, but the more transactions that get input on time, the less problems they have with Phoenix. Phoenix doesn't like retroactivity. As I said, we wish that it did like it. It doesn't. And we find that, unless you can give us the number, but over 90% of transactions that are input on time have no trouble with Phoenix. Okay. Is that right?
So then, Minister, given that there are, and those are impressive numbers, and you're absolutely right, so things can be, done, processed on time, making sure that they're being put in correctly. But there is still that 10% that even if they are put in correctly and on time, that Phoenix does still seems a little buggy. So the question that I would have, has any serious consideration been given to hiving off those departments that do those calculations on time and accurately? Is there any consideration given to hiving them off of the system so that those people can get paid correctly and then trying to devote greater resources to those who are more problematic?
Absolutely. I think part of the flexibility within the pod concept, and Les can add to this, is the idea that we can be more responsive to the uniqueness and circumstances of each individual department. So if there's specific collective agreement terms, if there's a certain type of pay, if it's a certain type of work, you have someone out on a Coast Guard boat for 2 weeks, they can't get there transactions put in on time by virtue of the fact of the way their work is organized. So by dedicating pods to specific departments and agencies, we can address more easily, easily is probably the wrong word, I apologize. We can address more directly the challenges and the idiosyncrasies of any one department. Les, can you?
That's one of the benefits of the pod concept is the dedicated resources in Miramichi that are then able to focus exclusively with the HR and financial units within the departments that they serve. So they can deal with issues as they arise much more quickly. The relationships are being built, and we can work with those respective departments more directly, as the minister says, to address their particular priorities around the problems that their particular work organization is experiencing.
Very quickly, Minister, because I don't have much time, a lot of time left, but on another sort of issue, I know that the department has done great work in terms of awarding contracts and trying to work with Indigenous peoples. Is there also greater thought which has been given to working with groups of Canadians, perhaps even racialized Canadians, that have had difficulty breaking through in the system and getting contracts?
And the answer will have to wait because
Yes.
his time is up.
Yes.
We go to Mr. Macaulay for 5 minutes.
Very quickly, you talked about the strong, secure, engaged, about the money identified there. By this point in the mandate, we should be at $6 billion a year. We're currently at $4 billion, so you're underfunding the defense by about full 1/3. To actually achieve what's in the strong, secure, and engaged, you'd have to increase funding by over 300%. We haven't seen that since the Korean War, so I would strongly suggest you go back and take a look at your math, because I don't think you're going to accomplish it. Now, Minister, the reason I asked about the question from Treasury Board about not going after employees for overpay, last time you were here, I presented about a 100-page email from constituent of mine, Sebastian Critchley. She still hasn't got her 2016 T4 set, but they're going after her for a $7,000 gross overpay. She got her paycheck. $7,000 was given to CRA. PSPC is calling her for that, and there's several other identified in our office. So that's why I asked that specific question. I would urge you to please follow up with your department to let them know the rules, because they're very clearly violating what Treasury Board is saying and what you're saying. So thank you for that. I just want to get back, please, to the budget, A211. There's $307 million for Phoenix. I'd like to know where that money is specifically going to be used for, how we came up with that budget, again, what we're hoping to accomplish with that. And a second question, for the $653 million that's in A211 for public services, how is that money going to be detailed and showed in the public accounts?
So, Les, do you want to speak? Or Marty?
With regard to the funding for Phoenix, we have been building capacity on the HR front and also working with the vendor on systems.
Okay.
We
Building
are using
capacity this past term. What is this $307 million for?
these
please?
funds will allow us to continue to maintain that capacity and to augment it so that we can keep the compensation staff we've hired on strength. And
If it's
to
part
hire
of an
further.
ongoing program, why is it not in the departmental plan?
I'm glad you raised the question again, because, it would be very presumptuous of us to put in plans, publish documents, that which has not been voted by Parliament ahead of the schedule. So it's unfortunate that we're in that timing issue.
But your other estimates are in the plans.
Because they're already voted, they're already available
The
for
main
you to vote.
estimates, there's items on the main estimates that are in your DP that haven't been voted on yet, just like A211, which is not in the
That's why
departmental
they're here,
plans.
though. The other ones have been through Treasury Board. They're here for you to vote on. These ones
So
we will go to
everything
Treasury Board.
Everything in the main estimates for PSPC has gone through the Treasury Board process?
Most of it's renewal funding, but if there's an item like
that's not my
G7.
question. You just said everything has been approved by Treasury Board already. That's in the main estimates. Hence, it's in your
course.
departmental plan.
Yes.
So you've already gone through the Treasury Board process.
Well, for the main estimates,
penny of the main
everything at
estimates that
some
came
point in
out.
its history would have been through a Treasury Board process, and now it's into, if it's steady state ongoing operations, it doesn't go back over and over and over again. It's steady state, it's in our appropriations for you to vote on.
Very interesting. How would
So-
the items be detailed in public accounts, please, of this money?
Well, the public accounts is the end of the year expenditures incurred on behalf of the department, so
The
whatever
reason
fund
I
we
asked,
brought in.
the parliamentary budget officers appear and testify that the money will only show up as a lump sum. It won't be detailed like traditional public accounts or either spending items that are in the main estimates.
Well, we're really into two different worlds. The public accounts is the end of the year accounting of the expenditures incurred by the
But I'm
department.
just asking, how
and
will it be?
It'll be published the way the public accounts always publish, our documented financial statements
So you're saying
accounting
you're
for
going
the
to be, you're
expenditures.
going to identify, detail all the 653 individually, just like regular public account spending? Because that's different from what the PBO says.
I'm not familiar with what the PBO said.
That would be our
So
expectation.
it goes,
but we'll be
again, it all
guiding.
goes back to the transparency and taking away accountability. The whole reason why Parliament exists, you know, the old saying that what touches all should be approved by all, and yet we've got $7 billion in a vote 40. We've heard from Privy Council, now we're hearing from your department that this money is pre-approved through Treasury Board without actually being scrutinized by Parliament, whether it's myself, my NDP colleagues, or your own Liberal colleagues. And so it's a great,
That's
it's a
not
great
what-
concern.
That's not what we said. We were talking about the main estimates. We're not talking about
No,
the
I'm talking about,
653
I'm talking
here.
about the 653 million for PSPC that's in the budget in table A211. Why is it not in the departmental plans if it's items that are to be approved in the main estimates that we won't even get a chance? Normally, you would appear before us, justify what the costs are, but we're hearing that we don't have the detailed costs, and yet we're expected to approve them.
Thank you. We now go to Mr. Eiking. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair.
For 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the Minister and everybody being here. I think I believe, and many believe, it's important for the Minister to get away from the Ottawa bubble and get away from the top bureaucrats sometimes and get to the get to the frontline workers that are out there working for us around the country. And it's my understanding you visited Miramichi, and we all know what they've gone through over many years. I mean, they had the system of the gun registry, and the Conservatives changed that. There was a new system put in place, and probably not enough employees, and there was employees kind of forced to transfer there. So, and the new system was not very good, and so this government inherited fiasco. We've had a couple of years and a couple of ministers. But what was your feeling when you were there? Like, I mean, when you talk to the employees, are they feeling more hopeful? Are they feeling, how is it? Tell us exactly what you've sensed and what you felt from them, what they've went through, and what they're seeing, that they're hopefully seeing what they're going to see in the future.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. As last Friday I was in Miramichi, we announced the opening of a state-of-the-art pay center and the rollout of the POD pilot project. I spent quite some time with employees there, really important focus groups with some very candid and thoughtful employees who shared with me both the struggles they've had over the past 2 years going through all this change and feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders, that they can't pay their colleagues in Victoria, that they haven't been able to resolve this or slay this dragon, and it was demoralizing. I felt a very different tone from the focus group I did with the employees in the POD project, who have seen success and feel like they have a plan. Their respectful request to me was that we don't get in their way, that they think this is the way to deal with this, and to support them and build the capacity around them and implement pods, and to focus ministerial priorities on getting these pods rolled out within capacity limits as soon as possible. I think there's still a frustration amongst employees, not at all to the same extent in terms of them not maybe having the tools like they felt in the past, or not being very clear on how they could solve this, but that it's not being solved as quickly as they would like. They want to help their fellow public servants. They're hired with this big idea that they're going to come in and we're going to slay this dragon, and it takes time. But I definitely feel like I talked to union reps who said that he's noticed an absolute change in the demeanor and the morale. I heard about a woman who historically has spent every spring some time on stress leave, and this was the first time in 3 years she hasn't taken that stress leave because she feels like she's supported. And so the morale has definitely improved. I would say significantly, but you may have noticed I have a penchant for optimism. So I left there hopeful that employees feel like they're well supported, that the government has their back, that their fellow public servants understand how hard they're working, that they're no longer being blamed for this, that headlines would say before Miramichi this and Miramichi that, and that's not the case anymore. Everybody understands how hard they're working, and I told them, and I'll tell you, I'm unapologetic about making sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, because my region's the same. We have a rural region with a lot of unemployment, and these jobs are so important for these employees, and it's not like they can just say, well, this is too tough and I can just go down the street and get another job. So they want to stick it out. They're in the community and they want to make it. Can you tell me about these pods? I don't understand what you mean, but these pods they work in.
Absolutely, I would love to tell you about pods. So this is a concept developed by employees at Miramichi. When originally one of the approaches we took on Phoenix was to take a horizontal transaction type approach, deal with all maternity transactions, all disability transaction, all late pay, and attack it transaction type by transaction type. The feedback we got was that wasn't making any one person whole, because I might have dealt with your maternity leave, but I hadn't dealt with the 3 or 4 other things that you might have in the Phoenix backlog. So it was recommended to us that we take a whole person approach. This was the recommendation of unions, it was the recommendation of experts, and certainly of employees in Miramichi, who came up with this idea that we build a dedicated skill-based team around together, build this. They all work together. They're attached to a department or agency, and they systematically deal person by person with all their transactions. So I will deal with your 2 transactions, your 4 transaction, your 7 transaction. So we resolve it for one person instead of one transaction.
Thank you, Minister. It's an exciting concept to listen to. We go to the last 3-minute round. Mr. Garrison.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I do want to say that while I don't believe the Band-Aid approach works for the system, it does work for individuals, so I appreciate the Minister saying she would look at my 13 cases again, but I promise her at least another 80 more as soon as she does.
That's not motivating.
Well, it should be motivating.
I will. I apologize.
It should be motivating.
Yeah.
I want to turn to the National Shipbuilding Strategy, which in the last Parliament all parties agreed to in the hope that we could create a new system which wouldn't result in boom and bust at the shipyards. But last year we had the first discussions that there might be a gap on the West Coast between the production of the offshore fisheries patrol vessels and the new supply ship that might be as long as 18 months. And this week we had reports coming from Halifax that the Arctic offshore patrol vessels and the Canadian service combatants might also have an 18-month gap.
Yep.
So that 18-month gap isn't acceptable for families who depend on those jobs. And it also means these are high-skilled workers that we're going to lose expertise in those 18 months in order to produce what we need for the Canadian military. So what initiatives are you going to take as a minister to try and help fill those gaps?
Thank you. I think you've nailed the 2 issues. First of all, it's not good for Canadian dollars that we lose that expertise. So our investments, it will cost more to build ships if there's a gap in production. It will take longer because we'll have to ramp up the expertise as we move on to the next ship. And it's certainly not at all acceptable for people and jobs. So we recognize these gaps. I think, Michael, you're probably better positioned to me to talk about but we are working with both shipyards, is what I will tell you, on the gaps both on the West and the East Coast, working to find creative solutions to help address this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Minister. We are working on both yards. This is a acute issue at both yards, certainly. In Vancouver, we're looking at issues, for example, could we start early work on the JSS, for example, as a way to fill some of the gaps? So that's an option that's being looked at quite closely right now. On the East Coast, a question around the number of AOPS, for example. It's 5 or 6 under the contract, so we would make a decision around the 6th AOPS and how we manage that. And of course, trying to make sure that the surface combatant project moves on schedule is key to this as well. So we are definitely we're engaging with experts, trying to figure out what the available options are to fill these gaps. It is an acute issue.
So I look forward to seeing progress in this. And then when we say West Coast, I say West Coast improvements, not just Vancouver, but my riding in Esquimalt as well. And in addition to that, we also, as part of the shipbuilding strategy, said there would be additional work available to other shipyards, including shipyards like the Davie Shipyard. And so can you give us an update on the progress on negotiations over icebreakers that would keep workers working in Quebec as well?
Excellent. Yes, I can. We're still in negotiations. We recognize the expertise of the workers at Davie, and there's really nothing more to update you on that. We're still at the table.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister, for giving us this extra time. Committee members, the department officials will stay for the second round. I'll suspend the meeting for 2 minutes. I was going to 5 seconds. Welcome to the department officials. Madame Lemay, do you have any opening remarks? No? So I'll start off with the first round of questions. Madame Mendez, 7 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Very much, Madam Chair.
Jump in.
Well,
Sorry, just before we go, I'll need 5 minutes to do the votes
for
all the things that come before us, okay? Thank you. Go ahead. You may start.
I can start the votes, or do you want to
No,
do them
no,
at the
you
end?
have to
Okay,
start
at the end,
asking
okay.
the questions. Votes are at the end.
I didn't get you. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much again for staying with us. I'm actually going to refer to this article that was published on yesterday, actually, by Mandy Kovacs. And she reports on the consultation you've just undertaken at Shared Services, a very wide consultation of 2,500 people, if I understand correctly. And I would really appreciate if you could share with us the results of that consultation. What does it say about the progress you've been making in implementing the mandate of Shared Services Canada and the improvements that have been accomplished so far? Mr. Parker, if you could, thank you.
Thank you. The article was dealing with the employee morale.
Okay.
Is that the right article?
It's not just with employees, no. It's own employees, other Canadian government employees, young federal public servants, industry representatives, and the general public.
All right.
And the
yeah.
general public, so
Okay.
it's not just...
So that particular survey, we've done a lot of surveys and consultations, so I just wanted to make sure I was on the right subject matter. That was an important part of setting the stage for development of the new plan for SSC. There are many components to that, including a Gartner report, those broad-based consultations that included employees, included the general public, it included departments and partners, and we used that input to reformulate the plan and reset SSC. That reset was announced in the budget. Those consultations and the outcomes really are resulting in an opportunity to put in place the foundations for the success of the departments. And they span from the adoption of cloud computing, accelerating the cloud computing adoption, deepening the cyber and IT security investments in collaboration with TBS and the Communication Security Establishment, making sure that our current operations continue to function well, so benefit payments to Canadians are not impeded, all of the services that depend on the IT infrastructure continue to operate. To provide the opportunity, and this is really important, to get a baseline of the asset holdings of Shared Services Canada, because physical inventory was never passed along at the inception of Shared Services Canada. So a physical inventory will tell us exactly what we're managing, what needs to be renewed, how it's connected. All of that is fundamental to keeping the IT infrastructure in sound shape going forward.
But is that ongoing, that physical inventory?
We will be launching a project to do that physical inventory over the next year or two. There are tens of thousands of assets that need to be examined.
Well, I can imagine, yeah. And this is throughout the public service?
It's throughout every building that exists where public servants are, especially data centers where there's servers to compute, storage, networks, including anywhere where there's a local area network, a connection to a department as well. It's a vast exercise.
That is massive, yes. It's quite a massive exercise. But I think one of the other things that the report came out with, or the survey came out with, is that there's a certain preoccupation with the turnover in terms of managers. That one of their wishes would be the stability of the management teams. Could you address that, please, for us?
Turnover is one aspect, especially for morale overall. It has been an issue. Overall at shared services, turnover rates are very similar to the rest of the public service. But being a new department, even after 7 years, it's still, in relative terms, a new department. This stability matters tremendously. So in terms of addressing it, we are providing training opportunities for leaders, for managers, to improve communications. We're improving training and development opportunities for employees, and communicating more with them about the direction and listening to them and their concerns especially.
Has there been any comparative work done between what Canada has been attempting to do with shared services and there are other jurisdictions that would compare to ours? I wouldn't talk about the United States. It's way too big and it's so huge. It's difficult to compare with them, but some like Australia or even the UK that would be perhaps more in the comparables would. Have you done any kind of comparison with them?
One of the aspects of the report that Gartner did was a comparison with selected countries. What they found was that what we're undertaking is unprecedented across governments in the world. At the same time, they also endorsed the direction, the model that has been adopted in terms of having a unified approach to the IT infrastructure for their government. And I can also say that from a security point of view, the feedback we get is that almost all countries are extremely envious of the efforts that have been made because we have an ability to bring together all the networking of the government and monitor and control the accesses to the internet and have very good visibility into what's coming into the Government of Canada network and what's going out. And that's a security stance that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Would that...
It's a wonderful time, 7 minutes over. We now go to Mr. Macaulay for 7 minutes.
Ms. LeMay, when did you know that Mr. Liddy had been told by IBM not to go ahead with Phoenix? I'm just curious, of all the meetings we've had, it never once come up.
You are telling me right now. Because
So
I still don't have anything that says that IBM has told him not to go ahead.
IBM testified in front of the Senate. Were you not aware of that testimony in the Senate?
I am. I believe the way IBM said it is that they had, let me refresh my memory
They said
here.
specifically, don't go ahead with the pilot, Phoenix isn't ready.
So it was the pilot, and then it was moved to, so that was when the move was supposed to be in the fall.
This was around,
and then it was moved
this was
to the
around
spring.
November, December of 2015. Were you aware of that?
Do you know about that testimony? It wasn't December. It was that move from the fall that was moved to the spring. That's when they said, don't go ahead.
Were you aware of that?
Well, yeah, everybody was aware because they moved. They actually moved. The launch was supposed to be in the fall.
I know. Were
as
you
know.
aware of IBM saying, don't do the pilot project, Phoenix is
Yeah,
not
I was
ready?
aware that
You were?
IBM
Okay.
was engaged with the team, and the team decided not to go ahead and to actually move it after discussions with GMs and the whole process. So it was, that part was known by everyone.
Hey, it came up from Ms. Mendez about the quick pay for federal contractors. I'm not sure if you can be able to answer. One of the issues that's been brought up is extending the quick pay a process for the subcontractors. Well, do you know if we're planning to extend that to the subcontractors as well, or just follow the Ontario model, which I think just has the contractors in the quick pay?
So there's obviously, jurisdictional issues with the federal government compared to the provincial government, but what we're
No, I'm
looking
talking
at.
about federal government projects. Will it
Yeah.
extend to subcontractors?
So what we're looking at
do you
is
know?
the adjudication process and looking at the terms of payment. So in that sense, yes, it would.
For the subcontractors. Oh, excellent. That's great news. Page 11, you talked about a social procurement pilot. Could you let us know what that is?
I believe that's the apparel one. Is that the one?
PSPC will continue to develop approaches regarding green and social procurement proposals, conduct social procurement pilots.
Is that the
Yeah, so one we've done, for example, is creating a certification for apparel suppliers to assure that their supply chains comply with good practices in terms of no child labor, that sort of thing.
So you've done the pilots already?
Been a pilot on that one.
Okay. I've asked before C344, the social license procurement or community benefits. I've asked several times if we've costed out what that will cost the taxpayers. And also this extends to the small and medium enterprise procurement study that we've been working on for quite a while in a nonpartisan fashion. We've heard repeatedly paperwork, uncertainty around contracts makes it difficult and excludes, actually proportionally excludes women-led small businesses. So I'm wondering if we've done a study of what 344 will do to that issue, but also to add for costs for taxpayers.
In terms of the community benefits, it's information gathering. So we're going to gather the information. There's a possibility of asking the contractors to provide that information. So no, and I think we've answered this before. Like there hasn't been any
we haven't done it
yeah.
yet. Yeah, the answers before is always we haven't done it
No.
yet. So
Still the case.
still the case? Okay. Many of your departmental plan, like your planned results, refer to different methodology being used. Like page 14 is an example. This has come up in previous years where it's almost like, well, we can't compare it to what we did last year because we've changed the goalposts. So we're not being able to compare apples to apples in what your department is. And this is not just your department. This is several departmental plans across the whole of government. Will you be able to go through and provide to us from the departmental plans apples to apples so we can actually see what you're accomplishing or what your goals are?
So the good news, I think, this year is that you probably have noticed that the plan is totally different. We had to review our indicators. So
Right.
there's a number of indicators that we won't be able to do that because they're entirely new. And the purpose is to be more reflective of what
Are
we're
we
doing.
comfortable then that all of them showing then are just entirely new and we don't have data for previous years?
Some of them are changed, but the ones where you don't have the tracking behind is because they are new.
Okay, so come back. Page 18, it goes about paying people on time. 36% last year, I think. Your goal is by March 2019 to go up to 95%. We asked when will we reach a steady state. The minister was honest, says, well, we don't know, and I accept that. But it looks like in your departmental plan, you're saying March 2019 for a steady state of 95%. Is that aspirational, or is that kind of a best of, or hey, we're going to achieve this?
That would be aspirational for those service standards that have been published, particularly for maternity and parental benefits and disability benefits.
It doesn't state that for maternity in the set. It
No,
states for
but
overall paying on.
as an example, the service standard is to process those transactions within the published service standard 95% of the
Is it
time.
realistic then to put a goal like that, which apparently we're not going to be able to keep if it's aspirational? Like,
Well,
it'd be fantastic, and I would congratulate if you could get 95% pay being done on time, which would be a steady state, and we could say, she could answer, the minister could answer properly or correctly, that's when we'll hit a steady state. She said we couldn't. What's the point of setting an aspirational goal? Should not be an actual goal we should be aiming for so we can actually measure it?
That target is one that has been in place and will continue to be in place, and so we need to manage our work to be able to move as close to that as quickly as we can to reflect steady state.
Are there other items in the departmental plan that are completely unrealistic then? Because I'll be honest, as a parliamentarian, I find that misleading then if you state that's your goal is a 95. It's not a true, that's like me saying, well, my goal is to do a marathon in 50 minutes. I know there's no way that's going to happen. I should set a realistic goal and publicize it. So that's my concern is it misleading to say 95% when you're just stating, well, it's not going to happen?
Mr. McCauley, maybe this one is, the pay one is an exception in the sense that,
Okay.
as you know, for us to pick a number at this point would be extremely difficult, so taking the aspirational one is
Maybe you
the
can
best
you
second
give us
choice.
a better guess?
Thank you very much, Mr. McCauley. We now go to Mr. Garrison for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thanks to the officials for staying with us on this. I want to follow up some of the questions that were raised earlier by Mr. McCauley about table A211. And I want to try and clear things up a little, just maybe only for me, but I think there are others who have this question. There are things that are listed there for PSPC, $653 million worth of spending, and for shared services, $289 million of spending. That's nearly $1 billion. Are those in the main estimates?
So those were announced in budget, are not in the main estimates.
So they're not in the main estimates. So if
In the
we're-
PSPC
When
main
it comes to this committee voting on estimates, we're not voting on that $1 billion. Where is that $1 billion?
Not on the PSPC main estimates. You would be in the CBS.
Just in the Treasury Board in general. But then how do members of this committee, like if we want to find out more about any of those items, things like gender-based analysis or official languages, the analysis of those items, which is part of the normal review of Treasury Board, if these items, they haven't been through Treasury Board. Has that analysis been done, and how do we find out about that?
Well, we can certainly report on it when we draw on money and then we're here. We can tell you. But at this point, they're not in the main estimate. So we're at the point where these are at the budget level. So we do obviously have a very good sense of what they are, but it's not finalized.
But I guess as a parliamentarian, I have a problem on accountability there. Is if you can't tell me about a gender-based analysis or language of meeting the official language requirements at this point, I still have to vote at some point on $1 billion of the spending, and I can't be assured that those things have been done.
On those two, I would say that we have to. I mean, if we want to access the money, we'll have to do it. So those are, I don't know if that reassures you, but that's part of what we have to do to be able to access some of that money.
But I guess, certain basic things that, certainly I'm defense critic, we go through in defense, like what is the split between capital spending and operating spending and those kind of things. So in these items, how do we know what's going on with the items listed in that $1 billion worth of spending?
Yeah, I don't know, Marty, if you wanted to add something, or maybe Ron?
We are in that transitionary year. You know that the process is changing over so that in the future, budget items would have been secured and available to be added to the main estimates before we appear at this meeting with you before this committee. We will get there, but this is that awkward transitionary year where not everything has been completely lined up. So maybe it's not the best of answers, but at the end of the day, when we do go through the supplementary estimates process to follow later in the year, these items won't be tabled in the standard way as you would have seen before, but they will be published nonetheless in our supplementary estimates as dollars coming to the department. And certainly that would be an opportunity where we can have a much more fulsome dialogue. But to the questions that were asked earlier, it's impossible for us to presume Parliament will approve them as exactly we have thought about them, so we can't publish them in our plans. But we obviously have a very solid idea what we were thinking and what we need them for. And at some point, once we've refined those plans and they've been accepted by the Treasury Board, then we will have that planning detail to be able to have a fulsome dialogue here at this committee.
So each and every dollar of that $1 billion will come back as supplemental estimates. That's what you're promising me today.
In a different way than normal. So normally we would have come here, it would have been an estimates by vote, but that vote is happening now on the Treasury Board piece where you see the $1 million. And so I'm saying that when we return, you'll see it as a printed item, not to be voted on in the supplementary estimates, but it doesn't mean we couldn't talk about them.
We'll be able to give you much more detail about them at that point.
So we're back to my initial problem with this at this point, is that should a committee decide not to approve something in there, it's already approved before we can ask you any questions about it. That's what you're telling me. It's not coming back in supplemental estimates.
It's coming back for discussion if you want, because you'll see it,
It's
but not
coming
for
back for
approval at
discussion.
that point. You're
but
right.
It doesn't matter what we think at that point as parliamentarians. Because
So again, I think, like Marty said, the important thing is the transition year, in trying to line. I don't know, Ron, if you want to add anything from SSC's point of view?
Well, what I can add is that in terms of the investments that are reflected there for Shared Services Canada, they are very much aligned with the descriptions that are in our departmental plan around the major activities.
Well, I have to say
That's the exact same for us.
that's still problematic for accountability in Parliament. That if we can only ask questions after we approve things, it doesn't really have any impact. So it's kind of taking for granted the role that certainly this committee would have in providing some supervision over spending. It's writing that off this year.
But if that's helpful, we can give you like the high-level discussion if you want to go through the items. We can do that.
The high-level discussion, but if I want to ask questions about gender-based analysis and official languages, that's my two that I would ask you lots of questions about. You can't do that.
Again, like I say, those are things that we have to do, so we will do. So that I'm very confident.
But you understand, I'm not trying to badger you as public servants. As a parliamentarian, before I vote to approve $1 billion, I would like to hear about the gender-based analysis of those items. And I would like to hear about the official languages impacts before I vote. And what you're telling me is that this year I don't get to do that.
The only thing I could tell you that maybe can help you is that you probably noticed, I believe there is much more detail in the budget numbers than there would have been in the past in terms of explaining what those items are. So I think that's part, my understanding. Again, maybe the question would be better answered by Treasury Board, but I think the idea was to try, because of this transition year, to give as much as possible in terms of the budget portion, so that you would have a good idea of what these monies would be used for.
So just, if I have any...
About 40 seconds.
Well, can I just say, one of the things I would have asked, for instance, in shared services about the census of population and some of the ways that you ask questions that would impact on gender, on transgender people, on the LGBT population. I would ask you questions about that. And you haven't done that analysis, so I can do that today.
Well, our piece of that puzzle is to provide the IT infrastructure that supports the computation and storage that is done by Statistics Canada. So those questions should go to Statistics Canada, the agency responsible for the questions.
Thank you very much. We now go to Mr. Ayub for 7 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, hello once again. I'd like to look at the national shipbuilding strategy. We know that we have planned for various orders, and on page 3 of the Minister's 2018-2019 plan indicates that shared services will be choosing a bidder in order to construct or build a combatant ship. What approach do you intend to take? And will you be taking a new approach? And if so, how will it differ to the approach taken in the past? What type of enhancements will be made based on previous experience for the next orders?
Of selecting a new design for the surface combatants to be built at the Irving shipyards in Halifax. This is a new process that was undertaken to try and accelerate the build, to look at looking at an existing design, take an existing design and work from that, as opposed to starting fresh with totally new requirements and trying to build a design from scratch. So the objective here is to take an existing design and then work from that to produce the final design to be built at Halifax shipyards. And in so doing, our objective is to speed up the process so we can get to construction more quickly by using an existing design. So that competition is underway right now. Officials are working very hard to assess bids that have come in to produce an existing design from which we can work to build the new surface combatants. Our objective is to have that bidder selected in 2018, and we are on track to do that. And a lot of work is going in right now to as I mentioned, to assess these bids with the objective of then having an existing design to work from, as opposed to starting new with a design.
What are the challenges that you're facing? What are the challenges in getting the best bids in the best naval shipyards that we have here in Canada? And how do you ensure that in making specialty ships that somewhere along the line we get the best price, the best expertise, and that all of Canada will benefit from it, and not just one shipyard, which by default, because they have specialized expertise, and in some cases the bid is call for tender is directed to them, and so that they're going to get selected by default. Because how do you ensure that there's a Canada-wide approach taken in getting this type of expertise? I would say it's an opportunity to talk about our strategy. We have huge projects, huge contracts, but the naval strategy is that we have to look at the project as a whole and not on a project-by-project basis, and that's the beauty of it. This makes it possible to compete for management or for maintenance contracts, for small niche contracts. And at the same time, this will enable us to develop expertise. So we're going to be able to strike a balance. And I can tell you this is not an easy task because we're talking about a huge, complicated contract. But we're trying to ensure that we create jobs, develop expertise in the sector, while at the same time ensuring that all benefit across the country, and including the small businesses. Then that's my follow-up question. I always get the impression that when we talk about building huge warships, that we don't succeed in using the expertise from all of the shipyards here in Canada. And this is done on a by silo basis. So your challenge, you're saying, well, we're going to try and balance this and sprinkle the contracts throughout the country. There's a Davie shipyard in Quebec. We know that they're getting a lot of contracts, not for warships, but for icebreakers or other types of ships. How do you manage to strike a balance? Particularly, how do you get the best quality of service at the best price? Because it costs a huge amount of money to build these ships, and the SMEs, how can they have access to these contracts in an uncomplicated way? I appreciate your question. Often we tend to talk about our big projects, but in fact, these big projects involve so many subcontractors, and the economic spin-offs are very significant right across the country. How do we ensure that the SMEs are going to be able to take advantage of this? We're working on this at Public Services with our D&D and Coast Guard colleagues to ensure that Canadian businesses are going to be able to profit from all of this. Because when you look at the economic spin-offs, it's surprising to see that it's not that the spin-offs are not necessarily seen only where there are the huge shipyards. So how do you get this information out, as you're saying? And I agree with you. We talk about buying one ship at so many $1 billion, but we don't talk about everything that surrounds that contract. So if you have that information, I would appreciate getting it. And if I'm not trying to give you advice here, I'm no specialist in the field, but I would like to receive more info, and I'd like the public for receiving more information.
So, we will have 3 rounds of 5 minutes so that it gives us 5 minutes to do the votes. So we'll go to the first 5 minutes, Mr. Macaulay or Kelly?
I'm going to ask, who proofed the departmental plan? Who did the final proof? I'm laughing because I look at page 29, I see the Speaker of the House with a massive full head of hair.
So you are very observant. We do have a quality check process, but actually that version was corrected. I think that in 24 hours. So we caught that before, but not on time for the first day.
Well,
So we apologize.
That's okay. I'm sure the speaker's happy. Page 46, there's a decrease in funding for federal buildings. Is that because projects are done, or can you explain why that might be?
Page 46. Just want to make sure I've got the right one.
And while I'm at it, maybe someone can look at the next
that the
question.
integrity?
Page 48, you talk.
That's the program.
The key driver there is the program integrity reduction that we were just talking about earlier when you asked your question about the budget renewal of the $275 million that will offset that once we're successfully able to procure it.
Same question, page 48, there's a reduction in the Building Canada Innovation Fund. I know that's come up in this committee repeatedly, very highly lauded program.
So this is a program that we're very proud of. You would have seen in the budget that there's an intent to include it in innovation solutions from the industry portfolio. So we're working with them. The funding is not disappearing. The program is going to take place. It's
So
just a matter of
getting
where
transferred over?
it's either going to be going over, or we might fund it for another year and transfer. We're working out with them as to when the transfer will happen. But the program is a successful one, and money will be there.
Okay. On the departmental plans, it's wonderful that we're getting them the same time the estimates come out, but, we've gone through and there's a lot of, I don't want to call them errors, but there's inconsistencies with the goals. We see, okay, here's the goals here, but we don't have any matrix to compare them to the past. Then we hear about the Phoenix goal. Well, it's really not a goal to compare like everything else. And then this information, if you were to read it, if you're someone from the public, and the intent was to have a departmental plan where anyone can just pick up and read, why does it not just say it's a great program, we will try to fund it, or it's going to be transferred to another department? So it doesn't leave us thinking, oh, it's getting cut. And again, it's about transparency and having the information
I
correct.
take your point. I think, again, it's a question of transition this year, and, I think that's what it is. So we could have included the budget
Okay.
lens on it, then it would have been helpful.
Page 20 of the DP, it talks about land that the government owns that's going to be transitioned to or made available, perhaps social housing. You've done an inventory. Will you provide that inventory to this committee? And I'm curious, who will have the final say about getting that transferred over? Because it has come up in this committee before where some of it belongs to Canada Lands, and it was approached, well, how much of this land? And the Canada Lands just kind of chortled and said, no, that's our property, and we're not giving it up.
So I believe you're referring to the partnership that we have with the ESDC
That's
and
what's
that
listed
list.
on page 20.
And then we will, ESDC will, it's a community housing, right? That's the one?
That's what's on page 20.
Page 20?
Can you just provide the
that the one?
inventory to the...
So we can give you the list, yeah.
Yeah, if you could provide it to the committee, because it has come up in the past. How much time do I have? 1.5 minutes. Great. I just want to get back to the shipbuilding. Mr. Garrison's brought up some very good points. I've spent a lot of time with C-SPAN as well. And what we're hearing very clearly, it seems to be a delay with getting designs approved and us, the government of Canada, whether your department, getting stuff set so they can get the next ship started so that we're not laying off hundreds of very well-trained people who are then going to disappear to do other jobs. What are we doing to fix that? Because it's the same issue with Irving. And a quick answer, please, because I have a follow-up. In the PBO report on the shipbuilding, it was quite critical of the fact that he could not get costing details from the government. They blocked him. He couldn't even get access to the RFP. He had to go to the States to study the U.S. shipbuilding to get an idea of the costs up here. Just curious, why are we blocking our own PBO from oversight of this?
So I'll let you,
Yeah.
so the first part, just so the gaps portion, very, very mindful. We're looking at a series of projects, so it's a program that we have to manage. Very important, very involved in looking at solutions. The dollars, I don't know if the costing.
Yeah, we've been working with the
far as
parliamentary
I
budget
know.
officer around these issues. As far as I know, it's in the
You
it's in the
released the
departments
RFPs
that
to 'em?
work on them. So
Have the RFPs been released on?
that I don't know, Minister.
How do you not know?
Thank you, Mr. Macaulay. We go to Mr. Dhaliwal for 5 minutes.
And thank you to the presentation here. And my question goes to Deputy Minister, Madam Lemay. I'm going to carry on where Mr. Garrison left on the Phoenix system. He said there is 13. He has brought in 13 representations to your department, and he have not heard anything. If a member of parliament cannot get a response from your department, how an ordinary Canadian will be able to approach the department and get things resolved?
So I will ask Les to comment on this, but I just want to say that there are many ways that we have many entries for the employees to reach. There's many channels. All employees should get an answer, so that is not acceptable, and we'll definitely make sure that we follow up on it. I maybe Les, if you have something that you want to add.
We've also made some improvements with with regard to client service. We've expanded our client contact center by hiring 200 public servants in Gatineau to be able to take calls and to receive forms from employees. What we have done is to ensure training on all of the available systems related to pay, Phoenix, Jira, and the case management tool. So now when employees call, they're talking to an agent who has access to their file in the Phoenix system and can provide them with updates and details, which had not been the case prior to standing up this center.
Okay, and I come from British Columbia, and I know that your department is doing great things there. Whether it's the shipyard in Vancouver or the Esquimalt graving dock. Can you update how all the improvements that are going in is going to help British Columbians, whether it comes to economic benefits or creating jobs there?
There's been tremendous progress being made at the Seaspan shipyards in Vancouver. In December, the first OFSV ship was launched, which is an historic moment. We're expecting the launch of the next two Coast Guard vessels this year. With that comes certainly jobs in the community, and as the deputy mentioned earlier, a supply chain of jobs that exists throughout British Columbia, but also more broadly throughout the country. As part of the objective of the shipbuilding strategy was not just to have established shipyards, but to reestablish a supply chain and a marine industry in Canada that had disappeared over time. So there are benefits that extend quite significantly through British Columbia and through the country as that work continues. And the graving dock, there have been significant investments we're making in the graving dock now to improve it so that it's a vital asset for Canada, for the Royal Canadian Navy, for the maintenance of its vessels. And so we've certainly been investing in that graving dock to make sure that it can fulfill its needed purpose, and that's creating certainly construction jobs, as well as the jobs at the dock itself in the region for the work that's done there.
When you talk about construction jobs and contracts as well, if we look at British Columbia, it's the small and medium-sized businesses that create opportunities. What your department is doing to help them to engage. You have done excellent work for Indigenous communities, but when it comes to other minorities, whether it's LGBTQ communities, whether it's visible minorities, what your department is doing to encourage them to participate in those contracts?
So we do have an Office of Small and Medium Enterprise, and that is actually a group that we think we have underutilized and now are really wanting to outreach to the communities, that we want to make sure that they understand our processes, how they can actually contribute, whether it's the procurement process, the different places where the small and medium enterprise can actually connect with government. And there is an office in British Columbia, so you will see more and more activity. But they've been active on the ground, but we intend to use even more to do the outreach to the communities.
I want to thank you, and also we have with us our parliamentary secretary, great friend and a great inspirer, Steve McKinnon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dhaliwal. And we go to the last round of 5 minutes, jointly shared by Mr. Macaulay and Mr. Kelly.
I just want to get back to the shipbuilding. The gap that we're seeing for threatening in Seaspan as well has been identified for the CSCs in Irving. What concrete plan are we doing to ensure there is no gap? Both companies have both come forward now, identifying the gap long ago, threatening layoffs, et cetera, and also adding massive costs as we have to ramp up again. So what are we going to do to prevent that?
Do you want to take it?
So yeah, this is a key issue, absolutely. On the West Coast with C-SPAN in Vancouver, we're looking at options on how we could accelerate the start of the construction of the Joint Supply Ships project as a way to help fill in the gap there. That work is going on right now.
Okay, what options? Like, when are you going to approve or provide them with or approve the design? Because I understand that's the sticking point right now.
That work, the design work is underway right now. The question is, are there parts of the design that are sufficiently well established that could move to early construction? And that's what's being looked at right now.
I understand we're buying
So-
an off the shelf, so I would think so.
So that's the point. We're trying to move
So
on
is it
that.
waiting for approval by PSPC to sign off?
We're in the active negotiations with the yard on this right now, so it's on both parties to finalize on this.
Based on the timeline, what's the gap going to be then right now, and how many job losses are we going to be looking at?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
The one thing that we're all very focused on is minimizing this,
Okay,
right?
but
And we
shouldn't-
know it happens
Okay.
everywhere in the world when there's a
Exactly,
yard.
but shouldn't we know this information? This is going to cost taxpayers billions, as identified by the PBO in his report on the CSE. We've been knowing about it. We've known about it for a couple of years. Shouldn't we know what our costs are going to be and what our potential layoffs are going to be? And the same goes for the Irving. I mean, I'm quite stunned that we're just looking at options and we don't appear to have a plan.
So sorry if we may not understand that. There is a lot of work going on. There's a lot of external expertise being hired too. We are looking at all the different options because there's many things that influence a gap. So how do these things play? Our objective is to minimize the gaps, minimize them. So everybody's working towards that right now.
Okay, what's the gap going to be in C-SPAN? They're the closest, I would think.
We're quite hopeful we can minimize it substantially with this step. So that's the work
These
that's
are
under on right
people's
now.
lives. What is minimized to them? Only 100
That
lives
there's
destroyed by
significant,
layoffs? I mean, what?
significant work at the yard. So that's from the active work with the yard right now to finalize that. So we have that. So it's a serious effort.
I don't want to be rude, but it doesn't sound like you know how many lives are going to be affected, how much tax dollars are going to get wasted, so to speak, because we haven't closed the gap. Do we have that? Have we done a report?
We have
What's
a
the-
number of external parties inputting so that we can actually make the right decision. We're not doing this in isolation. We're doing it with all of the departments that are involved, the yards. It's a common objective. Everybody's focused on the same thing. We're like, it's not
Do
on
you
us.
have, do you have a backup plan if the gap is 1.5 years has been reported for both Irving and C-SPAN? Do we have a plan besides we're looking at it? Because this is coming up real fast.
Yeah, no, we hear you.
Yeah, we're actively working on this. There's questions around the numbers of AOPS, for example, that's being looked at right now. And then as we've talked about before, on the CSE and making sure that moves according to schedule are key.
Can we get a confirmation that you will make sure the RFP is provided to the PBO as well as all the costing information for the CSC?
So maybe let us look at why
Yeah,
it wasn't. I'd like to go back and understand why, if it hasn't, because this is the first.
If the PBO has enough clearance to go to the States to get full access to the Arleigh Burke frigates, surely you would think
So
the
we'll get back
government
to
will
you
allow
on
us.
that promise, okay? Just
We got 1 minute.
Well, we'll see if we can get through this in 1 minute. I wanted to know about the carbon tax. Strong Security engaged the 20-year plan. How does your procurement plan include the full costing of the carbon tax to your military suppliers?
I'm not sure I understand it. It's
Co-
part of the
cost. This is a new cost that will change
Right.
the cost of many products and services and goods. Have you accounted for that in?
It's the Department of National Defense that does all the costing in Strong Secure Engaged. They're responsible for doing the full life cycle costing of those. I'm not sure if they've included that in that or not.
Okay,
that's
but in
the
a
Department of
project
National
then that they
Defense.
say to you for you to procure, then that's their
But they-
responsibility to take that
They
into
do
account
the
in
full
the
costing of those projects and including the life cycle cost, which would be more in the realm of when you start operating and maintaining a piece of equipment, which is
Well,
their
I think it affects
in their
procurement as well,
responsibility.
but all right, that's.
Thank you very much. And the witnesses are welcome to stay, or they can be excused as we are doing the votes. Yes, Mr. Garrison.
So I'd like to move to delay the votes to a day before June 10th, 2018. We're dealing with a new estimates process here. We asked some questions today, both conservatives and I, that we didn't really get answers to. I know that Daniel Blakey, who's our critic, has asked for additional information on the new processing question period in a take-note debate, in an emergency debate. So there's still plenty of time for the committee to deal with these estimates. We don't have a lot of our regular members here today, so my motion is simply that we delay the vote to a day before June 10th, which is the last day possible.
So for the benefit of the committee, the motion is in order because it deals with the subject at hand. So, Mr. Macaulay.
I'd like to speak on it first, please. This is a very important issue. I hate to be calling the question on $7 billion of spending without any parliamentary oversight. Now, we've heard from many experts. We've heard from Kevin Page, the previous parliamentary budget officer, who has called out it's a lack of transparency and takes away oversight from the Parliament and the real reason why we're here. And Mr. Garrison brought up some very good points, so we have a lot of time. We've heard from our own parliamentary budget officer. He actually put out a report on the issue about whether we're willing to sacrifice oversight for the expediency of basically a false claim of aligning the estimates. Because let's be honest, we're not actually aligning when we don't have the answers to so many questions. We heard from this very own committee from the Privy Council office about their spending, whether they'd even looked at it yet, and their comment they hadn't developed the plan. They were just simply told to put it in. It's difficult to expect us to do our job as parliamentarians and justify spending, see what the results are, when in fact the departments who are asking for the money have stated, well, we're putting the money in, you need to ask the Treasury Board what that's money for, even though there was money for the Privy Council office for $1 million. We heard earlier today about there's detail in the budget. I want to explain, for example, simpler and better procurement, $52 million. That's not exactly what the quote was. There's more detail. So $52 million for simpler and better procurement. We don't have details if that's on providing, as we've heard, set-asides for First Nations. We discussed it earlier today about some of the First Nations procurement. We've heard repeatedly witness after witness representing First Nations, Indigenous groups, that the way the government does procurement is very flawed, that we need to pursue other avenues than the way the government is doing it. I'd hate to think that the government, I'm sorry?
No, I'm letting the guys leave because you're going to talk out the clock, as far as I know.
You guys don't want to hear this?
No.
I'll never get a chance to speak in front of so many people again. Yeah, but I'm not finished.
No,
I'm not
he's
finished. But
he's
thank
got
you, Mr. Eiking.
20 seconds. Sorry.
Yeah. But I was just saying the lack of detail is that $52 million going to go to create a program that does not benefit First Nations, that we've heard the system's broken. And yet we've also heard certain members praise the current system that the First Nations have repeatedly said is broken. Are we going to have this money spent willy-nilly without hearing the effects of small business effects on women, where we just heard C-344, which hasn't been studied by the government, is going to add more red tape to how it affects procurement for small businesses affecting women. We heard in this committee that added paperwork, well, if the time's up, I'm happy to, if it's 1 o'clock, but we've heard specifically from women that, thank you, we've heard repeatedly from the women witnesses that they're generally smaller businesses and added paperwork disproportionately hurts women and small businesses. So we haven't addressed how it would be, and yet we're expected to spend $52 million without even asking the government
I just
how they're
have to
going to
ask the
spend that.
committee's permission. Do you want to sit through and listen to this? Because your time is up. Adjournment.
Oh, I've got
Thank
hundreds
you.
of pages more
Thank you.
on this.
Meeting
Well, there's
adjourned.
100 items.